A virtual attendance option is offered as an alternate mode of accessibility to our meeting today. We welcome the public who have been provided a call-in phone number to access this meeting. Those attending virtually are asked to display your full name on Zoom, as attendance is recorded for the minutes. Additionally, virtual attendees are asked to remain muted and use the chat box to submit any comments that you have so that we can read them aloud to the committee. The agenda, meeting minutes, and presentations for today were sent out to those who are already on the distribution list. If anyone did not receive these and you would like an electronic copy of anything, please make your request via email to Erin Stanforth. Her email address is erinstanforth@mecnc.gov. It's ERIN.Stanforth, STANFORTH @mecnc.gov. We'll begin today's meeting by having each board member identify him or actually, we will begin the meeting by having each member identify herself, because there are no men on this committee. Strong women leading. So again, my name is Elaine Powell, and I will call upon my colleagues. District 5.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Meyer, and I represent District 5.
District 6.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Rodriguez McDowell, and I'm elected by the people of District 6.
At large.
Good afternoon. I'm Yvette Townsend Ingram, and I represent you at large.
For the record, all commissioners have acknowledged their presence for this meeting, and we have a quorum. I will now ask Erin Stanforth to assist with introductions for others who are joining us today.
Thanks, Commissioner Powell. With us virtually, we have Ashley Smith with Stormwater Services, Brittany Brown with Catawba Lands Conservancy, Don Ciccarelli, Ebenezer Juar-Laputi, Aaron Olivero, Greg Twait, Aisha Pierce, James Clay, John McCullough, Leslie Rhodes, Jacqueline McNeil, Olivia Edwards, Richard Matulis, Sean Bloom with Catawba Lands Conservancies, Todd Deswan, Sheldon Turner, Zachary Turner, and Mal Harrington. My name is Erin Stanforth. I'm the Sustainability and Resiliency Manager for Mecklenburg County.
Kathleen Reed, Sustainability Consultant for Mecklenburg County.
Betsy Abraham, Public Information Officer.
Jenny Harper, Community Relations Coordinator, Public Information.
Good afternoon, Leslie Johnson, Deputy County Manager.
And good afternoon, I'm Jeff Smithberger. I'm Solid Waste Director for Mecklenburg County.
Brittany Coral, Communication Specialist for Land Use and Environmental Services Agency.
Aaron Cottle, Environmental Program Manager, Solid Waste.
Chris Lakin, member of the Waste Management Advisory Board.
Chris Brown, Chairman of the Waste Management Advisory Board. Thank you.
Okay. All these great people. I appreciate everyone being here. I extra appreciate that the chair and Dr. Lakin are here from the Waste Management Advisory Board. Thank you for being here. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the January 14th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we are going to introduce the Director of Solid Waste, Jeff Smithberger, and we're going to talk about our enhanced recycling programs offered by Solid Waste Management in the county and the infrastructure. Welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I've brought a couple of show and tell things. We'll go through those in a few minutes. And I brought the buckets here behind me to give away for our food waste collection. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. So Aaron, are you controlling the slide deck? Awesome. Just as a little bit of background, who is Mecklenburg County Solid Waste, and what is the difference between Mecklenburg Solid Waste and City Solid Waste and Matthews Solid Waste and other places? Well, Mecklenburg Solid Waste, we're the folks that accept and process all of the solid waste materials that are gathered in Mecklenburg County, primarily for residential applications, but for some businesses as well. We also serve some folks outside of Mecklenburg County, and we charge those folks for the services that we do. In Cabarrus County, we collect materials we process materials that have been collected in Cabarrus County, Union County, City of Concord, and other places. So our program expands beyond the borders of just Mecklenburg County. We process over 850,000 tons of stuff every year. That includes trash and recyclables and all of the various things that we do. We touch a lot of folks. We operate as a utility. We're not part of the county's general fund. We get our funding from three main areas: fees that we charge at our centers. So very similar to a Duke Power or Charlotte Water. The more of that you use, the more you pay. Same thing with solid waste. The more that you throw away, the more that you will pay. We have a residential availability fee that's charged to all residential properties. The residential availability fee goes and pays for recycling processing, as well as paying for our capital improvements plan that we have. Solid Waste has a capital improvements plan that goes in front of the board each year, but we have about $85 million worth of things that we're working on infrastructure-wise over the next 9 years that we're doing. We also get a few annual rebates or grants from the state of North Carolina. The state gives us money back for what they call white goods, which are appliances that are traditionally the old white in color refrigerators and freezers and washers and dryers and things. We get a small stipend from that. We get a stipend from tires that get disposed of. The General Assembly actually will not allow us to charge a fee for tires. And so we end up subsidizing the tire disposal program in Mecklenburg County to the tune of about $500,000 a year. Next slide. This is a metric that we show that hopefully, there we go. The solid waste FY24 metrics that we have. It shows on the left side that we divert about 45% of the materials that come in. That's a recycling ratio that we have that includes all the things that you may consider in curbside recycling, as well as the extra recycling things that we do that we'll talk about here a little while later. Our total system tons generally grow every year. In FY22, we were on the heels of COVID, and it was a little bit higher during the COVID times because more people were staying at home and they were throwing away more things in COVID. Went back down a little bit in 23, rose in 24, and we're seeing it rising again in FY25. But that coincides with more people coming into our community and more people throwing more things away. Our total customer experience also shared the same thing over on the right-hand side. It shows total customers that flow through our full service centers that we have. We're approaching, 870 to 850,000 folks any given year. It rises and falls a little bit based upon what consumers are doing. We're seeing a little bit of a tick up again in FY25. We did see a bit of a tick down in FY24, but again, FY23 and 22 were still riding on the heels of COVID when we saw even more folks coming to use our facilities. You can see that we have 146 staff positions, and we have special enhanced recycling programs that really just started kicking off with our program in FY22, and we'll get into the specific metrics on those. But the traditional recyclables that you think about that come into our facility of bottles and cans and are collected curbside, we're showing those at around 62,800 tons in 24, and the out-of-county recycling at just over 14,000 tons. And our motto is, don't just recycle, recycle right. And we'll talk about the reasons for that in just a few minutes. The map that's on the screen right now shows where our facilities are located. The magenta or pink color has a 5-mile radius circle around each one of our full service disposal centers. And the reason it shows 5 miles is because when we have done metrics and asking folks for customer surveys, they have told us that they prefer not to drive more than 5 miles to get to one of our centers. In the bottom section of the map, you'll see 2 yellow circles, and those are our 2 newer facilities that we're in the process of working on getting constructed. The number 6 will be the Monroe Road Recycling Facility. We have gotten and received bids for that, and we will actually be starting construction with that facility sometime in the March timeframe, but that is a co-located facility with a Mecklenburg County new park. And when we build that facility, we will be shutting down the operations that we have at McAlpine Park and moving and migrating our operations to this newer facility. The number 5 will be the Steel Creek Transfer Station and recycling facility that we have. The good news on that is we have been awaiting permits from the city for more than 2 years. We finally received those in January, and we're moving forward with getting that project out to bid. And so hopefully very soon and very shortly, we'll be able to start that construction on that facility. But as you can see by the new facilities that we're doing and building, we're trying to adapt and react to the fact that our community is growing and we're producing more and more trash and recyclables. And we want to make sure that our infrastructure that we have to be able to collect those things is convenient to all communities here in Mecklenburg. Now, a couple of years ago, this committee basically challenged our program and said, we'd like you to recycle more. And the solid waste program worked with the Waste Management Advisory Board to try to come up with additional ways that we could pull additional things from the waste disposal stream. And we realized and told this committee that our material recycling facility, or MRF as we call it, it's limited because it has old technology and old equipment. This board has been great in working with, and in 2022, you approved us building a new materials recycling facility, and we're underway and going in that process now. But in the meantime, we figured that there were some things that we could do to enhance our recycling, hence the enhanced recycling motto, to do more recycling at our full service facilities. And so we developed an enhanced recycling program that includes textiles and books and rigid foam and wood waste, notably furniture and food scraps. And so we have been rolling those out incrementally to our facilities. And those are things that can't go in the curbside recycling cart. And so we brand curbside recycling differently than other recycling. So when our program talks about recycling, it could be anything from yard waste, cans, bottles, glass containers, or now, as we say, textiles, rigid foam, and shredded paper, and the other things that we're doing. Next slide. So we'll talk about each one of these things that we're doing and a little bit of the reasons why we can't accept them in curbside recycling. But hard and softback books were one of the first things that we started collecting at our full service centers as part of the enhanced recycling program. We recycle the books that come in, and we do so by repurposing some of them through promising pages, especially children's books and Bibles that we're able to pull out. The other books that come in generally are old textbooks that don't have useful lives in other places. And so what those textbooks have is they're ground up. We collect them separately. We take them to a different location. We grind up those both hardback books and softback books. They physically can't be recycled in the MRF facility just because of how dense they are and how thick they are and how much they weigh, and the technology doesn't exist to do that. So we ask people to bring those to us separately. Next slide. Same thing's true with shredded paper. Shredded paper can be recycled. However, it can't be recycled curbside because once it goes to our MRF facility, it falls out like confetti. It's just too small to be able to collect. So we have Gaylord boxes where you see Kaleem in our staff demonstrating how to dump the shredded paper into the Gaylord boxes we have. Now, we average about 6 Gaylord boxes a month from people bringing shredded paper to us. That's easily recycled, and we actually get a little bit of remuneration from that. We get $500 or $600 a month for recycling that shredded paper separately. And the amounts that we've collected since we started doing that is an astonishing 234,000 pounds, because in my program, we measure all this stuff, or 117 tons of shredded paper. And if you know how light shredded paper is, that's a lot of shredded paper. Next slide. We also have special collection boxes for textiles. And so we have been repurposing textiles back in our program for well over a year now. We are averaging about 4,700 pounds per month of textiles delivered to our program. And again, the amount since inception has been about 194,000 pounds of textiles, or just under 100 tons. And again, these large blue boxes are emptied by our contractor, who we participate with 2 times a week at each one of our full service centers. And so we now have these boxes, and it's one of the things that we advertise as part of our textile program. And textiles can include everything from shoes and clothes and sheets and pillowcases to things that I never would have thought of, pillows and even purses. So they're able to take a lot of things in the textile program. And so we're able to pull those out. Next slide. The other one that we're proud of that we have just started doing last fiscal year is clean wood waste. And when you think about clean wood waste, it doesn't necessarily mean a 2x4. It means wood furniture. And so if there are desks and chairs and things that are made of wood, most of those type of things we can process as clean wood waste. We have a specialty company here locally in Mecklenburg called Timber Pack that we have partnered with, and Timber Pack takes our clean wood waste materials, specifically furniture and pallets. They grind them up, and then they take them and put them back into a process where pressed wood, think of the things that you may see shelving and other things made out of, then with a veneer or laminate made over top of them. We keep those local here in North Carolina and do that. And so this is a new program that we've just started. And you can see from the weight of this, where the other ones were in the hundreds of thousands of pounds, we're over 500,000 pounds of wood material going out in this. And again, these were things that were generally landfilled, and we're saving landfill space by doing this. Last but not least, I want to mention our food scrap program. The Waste Management Advisory Board, notably Dr. Lakin, were very instrumental in getting this program off the ground. We received a North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality grant for $40,000 to initially develop food waste scrap recycling at our facilities. This is a program where people bring materials to us in a bucket, which Aaron has behind us. And part of the bucket that we have, well, not part, but the buckets that we procured as part of this program were part of the grant. So no county dollars or fee dollars were spent in doing that. We've partnered with Crown Town Composting to process these materials. And we started this in November of 24. So we're sort of in our infancy of collecting food waste at our centers, but we are getting loads of food waste taken away by Crown Town each and every week. And we're currently accepting these materials at 2 of our full service centers, the Hickory Grove Center and the Compost Central facility. Next month, we will be expanding to Foxhole. And then once the construction consternation problems get done up at North Mech, we'll be responding and having those up at North Mech as well. So we'll have these at all of those facilities, as well as when we open the new facility at Monroe Road and Steel Creek, we will have these at our full service centers so we can help go through and make sure that people are recycling them correctly. Next slide. We're giving away these food scrap collection bins, so it makes it easy for people to do it. We're giving them away on Wednesdays at our Compost Central facility, and then alternating Wednesdays at our Hickory Grove facility. So Brittany, as well as Public Information, have been instrumental in pushing this information out on social media and getting the food scrap collection bins distributed to folks. Next slide. We also have a program that if you're probably not in the construction business, you might not know about, but we accept concrete and asphalt at the Foxhole landfill at a much reduced price. Our tipping fee for burying waste in the landfill is $60 per ton. However, we will accept concrete and asphalt at $9.50 a ton. The reason we can do that is because we're reusing that concrete aggregate for facility needs. So landfills frequently need stone to build roads and other things with. We use the stone that is recovered from the crushed asphalt and concrete in projects around the facility, thus saving us money, which is how we can pass on the reduced price. We do a similar thing with drywall. We recycle about 20,000 tons of concrete a year, and we recycle about 12,000 tons of drywall a year. But then we sell that drywall that's been recovered back to the fertilizer market, who are able to use that. Again, all part of our enhanced recycling program. Mech Foam, you can see Foamosaurus Rex bouncing across the screen. We came up with this to try to attract young viewers to our program, and having the dinosaur that eats foam has been our mantra. So we have Foamosaurus Rex. Next slide. Foamosaurus Rex bins are at each one of our facilities. But to get to that point, we had to develop a framework on what we would do. We initially applied for a grant and received a grant from the Foam Recycling Commission, and they gave us $50,000 to buy one of these densifiers that you see in that picture. We realized that the densification process would save space in the landfill because most of these pieces of foam were being collected at our full service centers, transported down the road in a truck and thrown away at the Foxhole landfill. How to pay for it? Partly through solid waste funds, and then partly from the $50,000 grant that we had. Next slide. We also partnered with the Center for Employment Opportunities. I've mentioned this partnership that we have with CEO before, but CEO has been instrumental in helping that through all phases of this, getting the cans together. You can see the blue can in this picture used to be a recycling collection can. We repurposed it. CEO helped us do that repurposing. We ended up repainting them and stickering them with the black color that you see with white tops to reflect the sunlight for a greenhouse gas reduction technique that we have. And here you see the CEO team celebrating with a pizza celebration for doing the work they had. Next slide. Aaron, this is the patented logo that we have for Foamosaurus Rex. Found out that it didn't cost much money to get a patent on Foamosaurus Rex. It was a couple $100s, and we decided we wanted to make sure that nobody else would try to steal Foamosaurus Rex away from us. And so we have a special website, mechfoam.com, and it drives people on how to do the foam recycling. This is something that actually surprised me, and I don't get surprised often in my job, but with the amount of foam that we received, we initially did one foam collection container per site. The very first weekend that we rolled out foam collection containment up at North Mech, we filled the foam container up in 2 hours. And that let me know that we needed to go back and get CEO do more of these containers. We have now repurposed 14 of these containers where we started out with 4. And so the good news is we had those 14 containers already in our inventory. And we have been wildly successful. We are now the #2 community in the United States doing white rigid foam recycling. Only Denver, Colorado leads us. And the good news is this really is not a cost program. It's not costing us money. And when I show you another slide to show you how much money that we're saving with this, it even surprises me. We're thinking about next year as part of our FY26 budget package is showing the commissioners that we might like to expand into business recycling, because right now we're only collecting foam from residential sources, and we do so as part of our normal program. But if we collect it from businesses, we will have to charge businesses for this. And with the acquisition that we have of the Pine Grove Circle facility, we're working to ramp the Pine Grove Circle facility up to be a location where we could do this from businesses. And so this would take even more foam out of the landfilling system. But we get calls from some of the healthcare providers that ship a lot of their materials, blood and other things, in styrofoam containers that they don't want to reuse. We also get calls from folks like a Best Buy store that have a lot of foam that gets shipped in products that come in televisions and stereo things. So there is a lot of business foam that is out there that we would like to attract back into the system. Next slide. This starts talking about how much of this stuff we get. And you think about how light a piece of foam is. And I brought some pass arounds here. And Aaron, if you could go over and pass that out to the commissioners, they can start looking at some of the things that we get. Foam by its nature is very light. And for us to collect 30,000, 45,000 pounds of this stuff, over 80 tons. And the other thing I'm showing you with the handouts that Aaron's handing you is that not all foam is equal foam. Some foam is good foam that we can process, and some foam is lighter than others. But the one piece that we have that looks like the log is what it, that does not get recycled. We can't find a home for it because, again, it's flexible. If you bend that, it's not rigid, and it's made out of a type of material that we just can't recycle. And so we do try to work with manufacturers to get them to make things in a process that can be recycled on the back end.
I'm sorry, I was
Yeah.
gonna just
This
say,
one's kinda
what
gross.
type of businesses are the ones that frequent this type of foam as opposed to the good recyclable?
Well, it comes in lots of different things, Commissioner. It's not just businesses. It's being pushed out by everything from Amazons of the world to when you buy some shelving. That one actually came out of shelving that my wife bought at IKEA. And it comes differently, and different manufacturers that make products make it differently. And that's holistically been one of the things that our program has tried to work with, and to ensure that as we work with manufacturers, we let them know that when they're making a product, it might be great for them, but on the secondary market, everything gets thrown away at some point in some time. And if they could make it just a different way or make it out of a different color, it would make us able to recycle it very easily.
Jeff, one thing I'll say when I was, Jeff, he was sharing with me, and then the way that I've always processed it a little bit, I was joking with him, the ones that is recyclable, it's the one, when you start breaking it up, it gets all into those little pieces and flies all over the place.
Yeah,
If it does any of that breakable in that minuscule piece, it's recyclable. If it's that other one that's just bends
rubbery and
and just, it doesn't, it's not recyclable.
And in the picture you see here, this is what the finished product looks like. That log that Aaron passed around to you, actually, when it comes out, when it's warm, is malleable, and we can move it and mold it around. We make these pallets of material that are about 2,000 pounds. This is a picture that we took for Christmas time to talk about foam recycling. So we had the Yuletide theme kind of going. That's what the greenery drapery is, to try to celebrate the holidays. But we sell this material. And so we wait until we have a full truckload to sell it, because that's what makes the transportation work. This type of material, then once it's in that state, is taken to a processor where they grind it back, and then they turn it back into new products. Things like the plastic chairs that we're sitting in today, plastic molding that's around picture frames and other things. That's all part of expanded polystyrene foam that can be reused. This is stuff that we didn't realize there was that much of it in our system that was going to the landfill. And I go to the next slide, and I've got 2 more slides to show you. This is how we transport it in these boxes like this. Inside of that box, there's a tarp that 2 employees pull back out, and they take it into the processing center. And then it takes us about 3 to 5 minutes to unload the truck, and then it's back out to its destination again. Next slide. Oh, I didn't realize this was the video. So this is how they take it out. These are some of the employees that we have, both county employees and CEO employees working side by side. Looks like that, where it's stored in our center, and then it gets fed into the grinding unit. And we process foam 4 days a week with our staff that we have. So there you see where it comes out the bottom, and I guess there's a little bit of lag time in the video, but we put it in those small boxes like that where it cools down, and then we put it and stack it on a pallet.
Oh my gosh, that's how it comes out.
Yep.
That's what that was.
That's exactly what that was, absolutely. And then eat. So right. Good question, Chris. It densifies to about 80%. And so the method that we use is thermo, where we actually heat it up. There's a different method that doesn't densify it as much, where you just use a device to squeeze it together like a bale. And that's about a 60%. We elect to do this because it's a little bit easier in shipping prices. It saves landfill capacity. This is a picture of the landfill, and that's what a landfill looks like on a nice day. But cutting to the chase, this saves us $670,000 a year in airspace capacity. I'll let that sink in for a minute. Now, we sell the material too, and we sell each truckload at around $12,000 a truckload. So not everything that we do costs money. There's many things that we do help us save money for the long run. And the landfill capacity is also an issue about space. We will never, ever, ever likely build another landfill in Mecklenburg County again for solid wastes that are of this caliber. Speedway landfill is filling up, and the Anson County landfill is filling up. And the one thing that I come away with, and I tell Dr. Johnson this all the time with commissioners in the room, is that the cost of waste disposal is not going down. Every year it goes up. And with the shortage that our growing community will have with space, if you don't like the price that we're paying for waste disposal now, in 10 years from now, it's going to look like we had a bargain in 2025. Couple of recaps on the enhanced recycling we've talked about. The shredded paper and books, 234,000. Textiles, 194. I'm not going to read all the slide, but this adds up to a savings of around 17 million pounds over the 2 years that we've been doing this, 8,500 tons. And so this is worthwhile in doing what we do. And we have always tried to be very cost savings oriented with the things that we undertake. And we are proud of what we do in our program, and we have been studied by other communities in how we do the things that we do. Next slide. I'll also mention that we're in the process of building a new materials recycling facility. This facility is out adjacent to our Hickory Grove Center on Pence Road. It's a rather large facility, and it is called the Interim MRF, and the Interim MRF will hopefully be operational by June of this year. We're working very hard to make that happen. And once this facility becomes operational, this is where single stream recyclables that are collected throughout Mecklenburg County and Cabarrus County and other locations will go to get processed. This facility will be used for about 1.5 to 2 years until our main MRF is back up and functioning. At that point in time, we're rehabilitating the main MRF. We've already have a contract in place, and we're waiting for this facility to be functional so we can make that transition. But we will be at a crossroads in about 18 months to figure out whether or not we keep this as a single stream MRF to process bottles and cans and cardboard, or whether we will migrate it to process construction demolition debris to save even additional space at the Foxhole facility. And so the way this facility is designed is it can easily be turned into something that processes and recycles construction debris, things like concrete and drywall and cardboard and things that are associated with construction demolition debris. And here's our Super 7 recycle guys. If you have any questions, please ask, and we'll be glad to answer or get back to you or have our contingent from the Waste Management Advisory Board help.
Before I start with questions, because we'll go through everyone, I want to say first to you, I have a life history with waste management. It's a really important part of environmental stewardship. And I think it's a part that doesn't get recognized. People think of other areas and want to volunteer in other areas. And so I just want to say, you are the real deal. I remember the day you started. You are you're so authentic. You're so committed and dedicated to doing this right for the future. And you are one of the most outstanding representatives of Mecklenburg County I have ever met. But you never stop. And I want to thank the chair of the Waste Management Board for serving multiple terms when it's not a sexy field, and he shows up and he keeps showing up for multiple terms, like well beyond what an average person would serve the max of 6 years. You're well beyond that. Thank you for that. And Dr. Lakin, thank you for pushing and never stop pushing for food composting, because it's important and it's really nice to see this pilot, and other members have pushed, but we finally have it coming true. So thank you for that. And I just want to tell a little bit of personal, because I'm very, very passionate about this. When I was 18, I went to Arizona. I was traveling with my father. And I won't go into the big, long history of it, but I'm happy to tell you guys the story, because there are life-changing moments in your life, like when you think about when you found out you were pregnant or things like that, like you never forget that moment. I saw an open landfill on the Hopi Indian Reservation and the impact that had on the Hopi Indians. I think of it every day. One of the big disservices that we do in the United States is get rid of trash without people knowing it. Like, where did it go and what is the impact? It just disappears. And so people don't think about, what does that mean? The Waste Management Advisory Board is thinking through all of that. The staff is thinking through all of that. Like, you have really good staff that is invested in making sure that if it doesn't belong in the landfill, or if it can be repurposed, reused, composted, why aren't we doing that? And so there are places in New York where the only alternative is just to burn it. And then not only are you not reusing and recycling, people are burning things and impacting air quality. So the fact that you're giving so much thought into keeping reusable, recyclable things out, preserving the capacity for the future, because we are paying a bargain deal. It is cheap right here, very cheap. I think maybe that's a disservice. Like, maybe it should be higher so that people would appreciate the reduced price for recycling. Anyway, I could talk a long, long time about this, but I won't. I want to get to everyone's questions, but I do want to encourage the Waste Management Advisory Board on the days that you have shredding events. I would like because we used to do this, the Waste Management Advisory Board used to go to the shredding events and teach people how to recycle right. Like, what is recycle? Like, you would be there. And not only is that valuable for the community, it's valuable for you to see, like, what is it that people are confused about? Like, when people throw shredding into the paper recycling, you see it happening in real time. And so it's beneficial for everyone. And so I just would encourage you to do that starting on March 15th. And then I will go to Commissioner Townsend Ingram for her questions.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I always learn so very much that the average person you don't even think about it until it's triggered like this. So Thank you so much for the presentation. And I have 3 questions. One of them, of course, that caught my attention was when you said the North Carolina General Assembly wouldn't allow you to sell the tires. Do you know if there is a rationale for that? That isn't just political? Is there some kind of environmental?
Well, I think,
benefit?
Commissioner, the reason that the General Assembly originally did that is it was twofold. One, they did not want tires to end up on the side of a road or in a ditch or on a property somewhere. And so the idea is that when you buy a new tire in Mecklenburg County or in the state of North Carolina, you pay into a fund. And that fund goes to the state of North Carolina. And the idea would be that the state of North Carolina would then reimburse counties on disposal of the tires. So the state has told us that we, A, must accept tires, and B, we can't charge for tires. And so because of that, they don't have really any more illegal tire dumps built up in North Carolina anymore. And some other states do. The problem is they being the General Assembly have never modified the ability to collect more money, and the cost of inflation has marched up over time. And so it doesn't keep up with our cost of getting rid of the tires. And so Aaron and his team every quarter turn in a reimbursement request to the state, and we ask for the cost of the disposal and the processing of the tires. And every quarter we get back less money. And so in FY25, we're estimating that shortfall to be right at $500,000. And next year for FY26, we're forecasting that shortfall to be around $550,000. And so where that gets picked up is in the residential availability fee that we charge residents in this community. That's how that ends up getting ameliorated. Now, we've gone back and we've worked with the legislative agenda to try to get it corrected. And other counties have done the same things too, because it's not just Mecklenburg, it's Wake and Orange and others. But so far there has been zero traction on that.
Thank you for sharing that information. Okay, so now I have another little axe to grind. What keeps the city and the county programs from like competing against one another? You know what I'm saying? I saw that there were employees working together. Is there something that keeps us from competing against them? Does that make sense?
I'll try to answer.
Okay.
The local municipalities, cities and town, the city and towns, they're responsible for collecting the waste from residents in their respective municipalities. The county is responsible for, after it is collected, for disposing of it. So we have an interlocal agreement that identifies whose roles are what.
Okay.
And so we're on the collection side after it is, we're on the disposal side after it's collected.
Gotcha. That answers that. The other question, okay, my last question. The Center for Employment Opportunity, those employees, are they paid a competitive wage, and would that be a viable trade to be incorporated into our workforce development program?
CEO hires their folks. They've recently been released from incarceration, and they, again, are not paying, I think, the same wage rate starting that the county is, but they're very close. And they offer their employees also not only just do the work, but they receive training. So they work with us for 6 hours a day, and then the other 2 hours a day, they're in training. So as part of that lower rate per hour, it's different than just a regular job in that, because they're gaining workable skills. But the other answer to your question is that we get reports back annually from them about placement, and they have a very high placement rate. And so their folks are getting paying jobs back in the community.
Okay.
The other thing that I would say about Center for Employment Opportunity is that the model isn't based on permanent employment. The model is a transition for reentry.
Gotcha.
With the intent of skilling them, getting the exposure, allowing them to get experience back on their resume per se, so that they can then be eligible for other job opportunities. So the intent is never for, so the crews, basically the county contracts with Center for Employment Opportunity for crews. And the staff on the crews are supposed to have a short life. I mean, they're not supposed to probably be in with them more than 6 months to a year, because they're really trying to get them permanent employment.
3 months.
It's 3 months.
That's
so.
okay. Very good. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer?
Thank you. Thank you. As always, thank you. I love these presentations. Question, I think on like the very first page or second page, would you explain again residential availability fee charged to all residential properties?
Certainly. The residential availability fee is a fee that's charged to all residential properties. It's a flat fee. Currently, it's $49.50 per home per year. It's primarily the way that we raise money for capital investments that we have, things that when we build the Monroe Road facility, when we're building the Steel Creek facility, we're doing work at the William Davies Park facilities. When we're making those enhancements, that pays that capital improvement cost. It also pays for the fact that we don't charge anything to process recyclables. And one of the reasons that we don't do that is to ensure that recycling is not more expensive than throwing something away in a landfill. So the cost of recycling here in Mecklenburg County to the normal resident, they don't see a separate bill for recycling. If you go to other communities, they will see maybe $16, $17 a month for that recycling bill. What that does is allows us to be able to be recycling centric in the things that we do. It also is factored into our work with finance, because we've done a long-term financial model for solid waste in order to pay back the monies that we borrowed, because we have borrowed some significant funds in order to build the infrastructure. We show the residential availability fee rising by $5 a year for the next 3 years, FY 26, 27, 28. And then after that, it will be able to ratchet back down because the majority of that debt will have been paid off, and then it can be lowered. So our financial modeling shows that there will be a stepped increase of $5 for those years, and then it will go back down.
And then that is collected via the property tax bill?
Correct. It's
Okay.
collected via the property tax bill.
Okay. And then tires, textbooks are kind of slowly becoming a thing of the past, but and other books, do we have contracts or partnerships with, CMS or the library or local garages, and, how do you?
We do. We
Okay.
work with CPCC.
Okay.
We take the Gaylord bins over to them. We take the Gaylord bins to CMS. We collect those extra books that they have. So we're getting those books out of the waste stream system that way.
Okay.
But yeah, we partner with others. We even partner with the Panther Stadium, the Bank of America Stadium, and so we have collection facilities in those locations, and we work with the Innovation Barn, and we have collection facilities over there to collect things. We work all across Mecklenburg County to collect those things, but especially with the partners that we have in government.
And do we charge them a fee?
For some things we do.
Okay.
When we're picking up their trash, we do charge them for the cost of that collection activity.
And I heard you say with the foam collection, the only other city in the country is Denver that's passed us.
Correct.
Well, we have such a robust program all the way around. I'm just so impressed with what we do. Is there any other comparison to other counties in North Carolina? Are we the top dog?
I hesitate, because if I say that, my other colleagues in my other communities.
Nod once if it's
But
true, or no, I'm just
yes.
kidding. Flies.
I mean,
Okay.
the things that we are able to do here because of the size of our community and because of the support from the commissioners have elevated us to that level. But we're doing it not for accolades. We're doing it for conservation of landfill space. Again, when I say that the Speedway landfill is projected to be full in 8 years, that's a relatively short time.
Very short
But
time.
that's a flex that we need to flex on because again, it equals money. It does. It comes out. And if that's the language they understand, then you'll be gonna flex
Well,
about that.
There have been other communities in North Carolina that have pulled back from recycling because they're saying that for the short term, it is less expensive to throw things into a landfill. And landfills are literally just that. They're a place where you deposit these materials on the ground and then bury them and cover them up with dirt. We have really highlighted our program to be specific and centric around things that make empirical cost saving sense for us. And so the things that we are recycling translate directly back to space savings. I mean, the fact that we were not doing furniture recycling before, and we've been doing it for less than a year, and we have 500,000 pounds of this, these are things that we're pulling out from the waste disposal system and are not going to fill up a landfill again and are really not costing us more. They're saving us money.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything you do and your team. Thank you.
Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
Thank you. So my question has to do with the very beginning, you were talking about how we take, and I don't know if it was just trash or just recycling or both from other counties like Union County, Cabarrus, what have you. So we're bringing in theirs, and of course, I know we're charging them, but is that taking up our space that we only have 8 years left? Like,
The Speedway landfill is where most of the trash is going, and that comes from the other communities. And so if we weren't putting things there, Republic Services is a publicly traded company and they would attract trash in from somewhere. Their goal and our goal are maybe a little different in the fact that they are a for-profit company where we are trying to preserve our landfill capacity, trying to do so in a way that it's cost conscious though. The recyclables that come in from Cabarrus County and other places are helping defray our costs. They are helping to pay off those capital costs that we have. So it's not costing us anything to bring things in for them. It's actually helping them do a service, but it is beneficial for us to do that.
and
The
that
one
makes
other
sense
thing-
for the recycling, but it's the trash part that, so it's both, right? It's,
Well, the trash part would, as he referenced, would automatically go somewhere anyway. So that's not like, we're really not as much taking their trash as much as taking their recyclables. So that's what I would hone in there. The second thing that I would note is that there was a time during COVID where there was such an influx of people recycling. We did have to say, I'm sorry, we can't take, because we didn't have the capacity to store it and get it to the place where it needed to be and transport and everything like that. So the team keeps a pulse on how we're doing. So if there's ever an instance that we feel like we are disserving our residents in order to have cast a wider net, they put a pause. They check in with me, and there were times that we have had to pause because we could not accommodate meeting the needs of everybody else yet while we were meeting our own residents' needs.
okay. So my main concern in that question is about the landfill space. And if we reach our capacity, in 8 years, then it's going to cost us more to get rid of, to find a place to send our trash, right? So that's why I was just concerned about, maybe we should be like, let them go find somewhere else, not ours.
Keep in mind, we're sending this stuff to somebody else's landfill.
not
This is
ours.
not our landfill.
Oh, it's not our landfill.
Correct. The
in
Speedway
Concord.
landfill is in Concord.
Oh,
It's
okay.
physically outside of Mecklenburg County.
Uh-huh.
And, we're using it under contract that we have, and our contract runs through 2028 with Republic Services. So we will be going in and negotiating additional space, capacity, and costing. And so the existing contract that we have was renegotiated shortly after I arrived here in 2015. And so it was through 2028, but that's as far as they would extend that for the pricing. And so at that point, again, it's not our landfill, but it's their landfill, but we will be taking up space, at that facility.
Okay.
The one other thing that I would say that the team is they're very forward thinking. They're not in present day. I always tell Ebenezer and even Park and Rec, They're 2, 3, 4 years ahead of us. And so that's what you want in this type of leadership. I say that because you may hear later in conversations about transfer stations and other types of things. They're already planning that we may not be able to go to that landfill on a regular. They're already planning that the cost may, because what he said is, the first one we negotiated a long, long time ago. So our rate of what we're negotiating, what we have on paper is significantly lower, even though it has grown, the cost is higher now. It is still significantly lower than the market rate. And so when we have to renegotiate in 2028, it's going to be more that we're paying. Can you share what our rate is compared to the market right now?
We're paying $40 a ton for disposal at the Speedway landfill right now. And the going market rate for others is anywhere from 75 to 85.
Wow.
Wow.
And and I thought
That's
it was 80, but
incredible.
I didn't want to misspeak. So and you figure out as their life cycle gets reduced and they have less space, that rate will probably be even more. So we cannot just be in reliance of that and that rate and trying to also manage the cost to our residents and all of these other things. So we're already in that future planning to say, okay, what are going to be our plan Bs and Cs to get us there?
Okay, wow, I mean, people don't know this. This is amazing information. One last question. So what if, people, and I'm not going to say I did this weekend or anything, but like, let's say, you might have had a textbook or something and you put it in the curbside, right? And when it gets to the MRF, is it pulled out or is it a total fail? Like, does it get pulled out and put in the right space?
Yes, no, and yes. It really depends on what the item is, Commissioner.
Okay.
If it's something that we could, redirect and put it somewhere else, keep in mind, we're moving 350 tons of material through that plant. That's more than 20 tons an hour. And so we don't have a lot of time for the sorting personnel that are in there to say, gee, I really could use this book and this book goes over there, because 250 pounds more of stuff will have traveled by that. We do the best we can. And that's why we have the enhanced recycling, where we ask for people to take things to a different place, because curbside recycling is limited to about 6 basic items. If it's more than 6 basic items, we can't handle it curbside wise. And so those other things that are out there, we can easily recycle. Everything from refrigerators and microwave ovens to tires and concrete and styrofoam and other things, we can handle those, but we can't do it curbside. So that's the limitation. And we understand that that's a heavy ask for folks, because when you're taking your kids to soccer practice or ballet practice or wherever you've got to go and you're working multiple jobs, we know that that's a hardship, but that's the best that we can offer. But we try to make it convenient for customers, which is why we're building new facilities in different parts of the community.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think it's just the people who have the best of intentions and they go, oh, well, this is paper. Oh, why couldn't this is, it's a paperback book. Why can't it just go in there? You know what I mean? Like, people are just, they wouldn't even think that, oh, that's not paper. Like,
There's a whole science of recycling, and that's why we have our wishful recycling program. We have a lot of information. Brittany and Public Information are working with us on getting reels out to try to help educate people. And there's other localities that are doing the same. So we borrow from them and sometimes they borrow from us. Brittany recently posted something in another community, pretty much word for word reposted what we posted, but they changed the name of their community. So imitation is flattery.
Okay.
Yeah, not surprised that we're trendsetters in so many ways. Thank you so much for what you guys do. This is really incredible. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
A couple things. We recycle way more than this. And so we have the bike program, we have the mattresses, and I might be missing some more, but we do way more than this. And my brother's from Denver. So every time he comes, he says he wants to go to Compost Central to see what's new. And I can't wait to show him like what's new, but we're outstanding even compared to Denver. And a lot of that is because of you. Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, you know, in the past has talked about like where she's traveled throughout the world into places where the culture is like, you're really thinking through, like, is this trash? Like, I think you said, you know, in the trash cans in other countries, you might have dental floss or like, it's so few things go in the trash because people have the culture of thinking through it before they throw it away.
Yeah.
And so I think that the full service recycling centers are really helping to get the mindset straight of how do we do better. And it's way bigger than just, for me, capacity. You know, we're not going to build another landfill. But why are we throwing anything away that is reusable, recyclable? Like, why would we do that? And so how do we change the culture? And I think that's a lot of conversation that happens in staff and the Waste Management Advisory Board. I'd like for you to talk about, oh, and another thing, you know, good leaders can deal with like problems that happen and like, oh, we'll solve this problem. And, you know, we can do a few weeks in advance or maybe a few months, but outstanding leaders, which are hard to find, think decades in advance. And you are doing that. And I appreciate it. And I'm a fan of field trips. So if anybody wants to meet me at any of these facilities or meet staff at facilities, we can plan a field trip and you can be there to see the contamination, because there's hardly ever a recycling process that we have that there isn't contamination. And so when you were asked, somebody was asking about sorting, I have sorted with Jeff before. Like, I have stood there to understand it, because so many people think that we have thousands of people standing there to separate it out, and we don't. And so it's impossible like, there are all these human beings lined up to sort it, but it's going so fast, you can't grab it fast enough. And so you just you grab the big stuff like the hoses and the stuff that's going to mess up the equipment, but, and bowling balls and frying pans and weird stuff like that, that ends up at the recycling center. So I feel like this is helping to shift the culture, but we can do more. I think it's important to talk about the financial model in a little bit more detail, because sometimes people think the county is paying, you know, like, so talk about, does Mecklenburg County buy the land where the MRF is? Does Mecklenburg County pay for, you know, what is the role of Mecklenburg County, or is it 100% fee-based?
Well, when you say Mecklenburg County, if you're talking about tax funds, general funds,
Property tax.
the solid waste program is separate from county funds. And so we are technically an enterprise fund, and we buy our land. For example, the Pine Grove Circle facility, which we just recently purchased, I think it was like October, November of 2024. We paid that from our capital funds, which are not part of the county's CIP funds. They're separate for the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. We pay all of our salaries, we pay all of our trucks, all of the equipment. Everything comes from the solid waste funds that we charge. And again, it gets back to the slide that I had shown before. We have three main areas of funding: the fees that we charge people when they throw things away, the residential availability fee, which really goes to pay for the cost of recycling processing and our capital improvements program, and then the grant funding, which generally falls short for covering our costs for things like appliances and tires. So those are our three funding sources. And when we talk about the timing of that, we do our financial model for 9 years into the future. So I'm not looking at just next year in fiscal year 26. I'm looking all the way into 2035. And so we're making sure that we have sufficient capital that we need for our program. And these last few years have been a little capital intensive because we're in the process of building very expensive infrastructure. The MRF is expensive infrastructure. The transfer stations are expensive infrastructure. What I am seeing is that our infrastructure costs are going up a little bit more than we expected because of the calamity that happened in Western Carolina has taken up a lot of building contractors. It's taking up a lot of building equipment. And even the fires in California are starting to affect the availability of some things needed for building infrastructure. So not only are our costs rising with normal inflation, but because we're building these large infrastructure things, they're affecting that. So that's why I will be likely coming back to the Board of Commissioners with the expectation that we have a fee increase for FY26, and there'll be one for 27 and probably one for 28. Because that's how it's loaded in. So instead of taking one big bite, we're taking very small bites at that apple of a $5 increase per home per year rather than a $10 or $12 increase per year.
Thank you. And I think like you'll get a lot more questions about that as time goes on. But I think it's extremely important to have that fee structure set up in advance, because we can't have the infrastructure we need without it. And I already kind of knew the answer, but there was a misleading slide at the retreat where money was on the slide, making it sound like it impacted our budget, and it, as far as I know, it didn't. I brought it today to show to Dr. Johnson, but the slide didn't make sense to me. And I just wanted to make sure that what I thought from when I was on the Waste Management Advisory Board many, many years ago was still the same. Thank you. Are there any more questions?
There's a couple of questions in the chat,
Okay.
actually. Jeff. The first is regarding the $49.50 fee that goes to homeowners. What is the cost for private collection services that represent rental and commercial residents? Does that individual property owner rate transfer to individual owners via property owners?
Without seeing it in front of me, basically they're talking about collection questions. Our fees do not cover any collection. And so there is a separate city fee that covers solid waste collection. It is more than our residential availability fee. And so if the caller or the question that came across on chat is asking about how it relates to the collection of materials, it doesn't, because it's not associated with collection. So if you live in an unincorporated area and you hire Acme Trash to come and collect your materials, and then Acme Trash is charging you for that, doesn't matter whether I live in Matthews or Mint Hill or anywhere else, the residential availability fees that we charge are based upon the availability for infrastructure, and it gives those collectors the opportunity to use our negotiated rate that we have with the Speedway landfill. And so it's completely apples and oranges.
There's a follow-up comment to that, and there's another question, and it's from Terry Lansdale, so shout out to Terry. Thank you. The residential availability fee is only for homeowners, not renters or rental property owners.
It will be for anyone who owns the property. So if somebody somewhere owns that rental property, they are paying that fee. And so, correct, it depends upon how the rental agreement, I guess, would be structured with whoever's renting it. I know that years ago, when I first moved to Mecklenburg County, I lived in an apartment complex downtown, and they charged an additional $10 per month for trash disposal, even though it was already embedded in the rate that I was paying for rent for the property, because the way the city does their bills. So many times rental folks will pay different fees based upon whatever rental agreement that they have.
Thanks. And then the last question from Terry is, I believe this is about funding for tires, the reimbursement you talked about. It states RE 130A-309.58. What funding source does the state reimbursement come from? Transportation, general fund, question mark.
Well, the state gets their funding for tires from the tire program where they're collecting. And I don't know exactly which fund that they call it, but the idea is that it used to be a flat fee in North Carolina, where if you went to get new tires for your vehicle, you paid a flat fee. Several years back, the General Assembly did change that to a percentage of the wholesale value of that tire, not the retail value, but the wholesale value of the tire. And so based upon the size of the tire, it's, I think it's under 20 inches in diameter, has a different fee rate. It's actually less than the smaller tires. So the state is collecting that from folks that are selling tires. There's been some discussion in the fact that that hasn't been audited in a very, very long time from the state standpoint to ensure that they're getting all the funding that they should be getting. So the state is then telling us that they don't have the ability to remunerate back to us, and they remunerate back to the counties based upon population. So it's how many people that live in Mecklenburg County or Orange County or Wake County or wherever. It's based upon population, not the number of tires sold.
Thank you.
And that's all the questions? So I just want to tell Terry from Air, he was served on the Air Quality Commission for quite some time. Terry, if you know anyone, a good person to serve on the Waste Management Advisory Board, we're always looking for people, good people who are willing to do the non-sexy work. And there was something, I wanted to tell Commissioner Townsend Ingram that we went on a field trip to the Foxhole landfill, and we can do it again. Like, if you want to go there and see it. One of my greatest memories was when the Foxhole landfill got ISO certification many years ago, and we had tables set outside, and I had lunch at the landfill with Bobby Shields. I'll never forget that. And I thought, wow, we're having lunch at the landfill. This is a big deal. This is a long time ago. And it's not like everybody thinks it's a scary place. It's not scary. It's fascinating. So we can do a field trip.
At our field trip, didn't we?
Yeah, we had, but we didn't have tables outside.
We
It
had
was
the-
too windy.
There was a tent and it was,
Mhm.
oh my gosh.
It was a
so windy.
windy day. So we can do that again. It was fascinating. And I think that's everything. I hope that you'll stay till the end so that we can, and because we have Aaron here. Aaron, would you like to say anything? Aaron Caudle, would you like to add anything?
Oh, no. I think Jeff did a fantastic job of explaining our programs and everything.
It means so much to me. Like, I never want to ignore staff that work so hard. I wanted to make sure that you had a voice if you wanted it, but we'll be here if there's anything you want to share later.
Well, we also have the compost food scrap bins to give you too. So if you'd like to take them with you, or if you want to give to Aaron for others, but we have several of the food scrap bins to give
I'm
today.
so excited about, so I have been composting since they put the containers at Compost Central. And I keep hoping, like, when I open the top, that it'll be almost full. So I want people to, I even texted a neighborhood to let them know, a nearby neighborhood, that we have that available. So hopefully it'll just keep increasing. And I think that's everything for waste management. Thank you for the work you do. We could stay here all day talking about it, but I guess we'll go into our next presentation. And I know you probably won't have time for the whole thing, but you can just start, Aaron.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Powell. So we do have, we do have another, looks like another chat from Terry. He did give you a shout out, Jeff, at how great the description and presentation was. So well done. We do have 3 updates we wanted to give you all, but for the sake of time, I'm going to pass it to Kathleen to talk about Work Green. And I think we could maybe push our other 2 future pilot programs to next month, if that's all right with you.
Yes, and I just want the committee to know that every time we set an agenda, like, my husband will even say to me, how do you think of all these things? And I say, it's so easy. So it's so easy to know that we're gonna have a full agenda, and sometimes it's too full. And so we'll just push it into the next one.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to give an update on the Work Green initiative. And so an overview, I know we have a new committee, so just wanted to share about what this program is. So Work Green is Mecklenburg County's environmentally focused employee engagement and education program. So any employee, any full-time benefited employee in Mecklenburg County takes part in this program by learning about and practicing sustainability. So things around the environment, things around sustainability, taking actions at work, taking actions on their commute to work. And those actions equate to credits, and those credits accumulate throughout the fiscal year and earn them a time off award. So depending on the number of credits that they can earn either a 4-hour time off award at the end of the fiscal year or an 8-hour award at the end of the fiscal year. It's a very exciting program and very unique. So we presented about that at a conference last year of sustainability professionals in local government. And there was a lot of excitement and a lot of interest in this program to replicate through other counties.
And jealousy, I will say that as well. They were blown away by the fact that this program exists.
So I'm saying, man, we got a lot to flex about. We got, we've got that.
And so there are 6 main ways that employees can take part in the Work Green program. The first is education opportunities. So these are from in-person to community partner events who host webinars or lectures, events through our own Park and Rec department, events through our office, through Lunch and Learns. And then there's also online modules that they can watch whenever they have time. So during lunch breaks or things like that, they can learn about sustainability topics. Education opportunities probably accounts for about 70% of the credits that are earned. So this is a really big part of Work Green. The next is volunteer opportunities. So that's for those who want to get out in the community. So if you're helping clean up a park or a stream or greenways or doing tree plantings, all of those count towards Work Green. There's a big push coming in March with Creek Week and the big spring cleanup. So all of those kind of volunteer opportunities count towards Work Green efforts. The next is clean commutes. So that's if a Mecklenburg County employee is using clean commuting. So we count that as biking, walking, driving a fully electric vehicle, using public transit, or carpooling. If they do that twice a month, that counts as Work Green credit. So it doesn't need to be more than once each month, but it is a monthly counting credit. Special campaigns kind of is a catch-all. So maybe special monthly challenges or special initiatives. Workplace services are things that they can do in office. So it could be something like promoting recycling right at work, making sure that printer cartridges are actually recycled, sent back to the manufacturer or dropped off at a big box store. And then we also have 10 active green teams in Mecklenburg County. So a green team is a specific department team that helps push and promote sustainability and the Work Green program. And so they have regular meetings that can earn Work Green credits for those who attend, and then also promote and organize their own events within the department. We are seeing a really big increase in participation in Work Green, which is very exciting. So this is from FY23 to FY24. Between those 2 years, we saw an 11% increase in staff participation in this program, which far exceeded our 5% increase goal. So we had last year just over 1,000 staff participants in this program, and that was over 13,000 credits, and most actions are worth 2 credits. And so that's about 6,500 actions that were taken by employees. We awarded over 500 time off awards, and then we have 10 active green teams. So looking at FY25, we are continuing that upward trend. So you can see that green bar on our graph is Q1 and Q2. So that's what we have the totals for right now in FY25. We've already had almost 900 people participate in Work Green just through the first half of this fiscal year. So I anticipate that we will be well over our 5% increase goal, which would put us close to 1,100 participants this year. All county departments so far in FY25 have participated in the program. To date, participants have earned more than 9,500 credits, which is more than 4,000, almost 5,000 actions so far this fiscal year, and we are just into Q3. One thing I wanted to highlight is our Work Green Lunch and Learn program. So these are webinars where our speakers are Mecklenburg County employees who talk about a topic that they do in their work life that most of our Mecklenburg County employees might not know about. So Jeff spoke last year about recycling right in Mecklenburg County. And then I included all the topics that we've talked about so far in these lunch and learns. So we've had stormwater folks come and talk about stormwater pollution, how to spot it, how to report it, how to prevent it. From Cooperative Extension, we've had someone come and talk about eating local, so local food systems. Cooperative Extension also building healthy soil and reducing food waste. And then we had someone from Parks, Krista Rogers, come and talk about fire in Mecklenburg County ecosystems. Upcoming, we have another Cooperative Extension session on smart snacking, something from Parks on invasive species management, and then Historic Land Preservation is going to talk about the intersection of sustainability and historic preservation. These sessions have averaged 225 people on the live webinar. So that's not the recording afterwards, but tuning in during their lunch break for these.
Wow.
So that's our Work Green highlight, and it's a great program that it's a great benefit to Mecklenburg County employees.
And I do want to lift up that we've seen tremendous growth in the last 2 years since Kathleen's been with us. And I would say that the participation levels, the topics, the engagement is through the roof. And I think I want to give Kathleen her flowers in that.
Thank you for that, because, you know, sometimes I'm an introvert. Like sometimes introverts don't get any recognition and they do really good work. So thank you for that. And Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell wanted to know, I heard you say it, is 225 the average on?
The live webinars, average on the live.
That's not the
webinars.
total of all of them. That's like
Nope.
per,
That's
wow,
one
that's amazing.
session.
That is excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it during work time?
We
Okay,
we
that
hold
helps.
them Mondays, generally Mondays from 12 to 1.
Okay, so. it's
Can you
kinda during
invite
your
us?
lunchtime?
Can we
One
see?
thing that's good that they've done, and I need to do a couple myself, is that if you're not able to do it at noon, it's still virtually available and you can go back and look at it. So the 225 that she's referencing is only the live, but then there's follow-up people who sometimes go back afterwards.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
Pretty impressive.
So I'll start with Commissioner Meyer.
I did not know anything about this, so this is news to me. This is great. And I hope that it's clicking with people. I hope that they are talking about it and they're changing some of their habits. So that's the goal, I imagine.
Absolutely. And we
So-
do see feedback either through email or when they're tracking their credits and give comments that like, oh, this thing finally clicked with me, or I didn't realize this. And so we definitely have seen some of those impacts.
That's incredible. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
I don't really have a question, but a comment is since day one that I got here in 2018, I've always felt that this is not a very green place. This building is not a very green building, and I think we could do so much better. And I'm not saying that like about the employees, but just about, you know, I guess it's a leadership thing. Like this should be one of the greenest places in the entire county. You know, this building, I know it's a city building, but like, you know, even the 11th floor. How green is the 11th floor though? I mean, literally guys, like we could do so much better, I think. So anyway, that's all.
Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
Well, I think to piggyback off that, I think that this is an excellent start, right? When you have something like this where it's a model for other people to follow, that is certainly a step in the best direction. So again, just grateful that we have innovative minds and excellence working in this capacity. So well done.
And so it is getting better and better, like especially since Kathleen's and like really focusing on this. And I love the incentivization, like, so it's not just do what's right. There's incentive to get people more involved. And so as it's all happening, I'm giving birth to an idea. And I'll think of it more later, but we need to have videos of like, this could be one of your lunch and learn, what contamination looks like in recycling. Because it's so rare that I ever see that. It's always like, this is how you recycle right. But if you show contamination and what happens to contaminated loads, I think it, like, you can't forget that because it all ends up in the landfill. So when people are throwing the wrong things and contaminating, it's really messing up the whole infrastructure of separating.
Do you mean following contaminated?
I can, like, I'm giving birth to it because I've seen it so many times. And so, like, I even sent you a picture recently, so, of this building. And so, I think that would be a great lunch and learn because it's more than recycle right. It's like, what happens when when people aren't recycling right? Like, what happens when there's trash in the recycling and recycling in the trash? I mean, it's just a mess. So, just an idea for, because I think we have the power of videos now and we're not using them like we could. And so I'm thinking of like this gold star employee in Park and Rec, Chris Hunter. He's so good. And he gets videos of different things so that people can see it. And, you know, back when I first started, we didn't have all that technology and now we have it. And so like Chris could be helpful with, you know, the putting that video to like the idea of it. And if there are no further questions or anything in the chat, I really appreciate all of this work. It makes me more hopeful because, you know, I think sometimes Work Green in the past wasn't as hopeful as this. So I feel very happy about this. And I want to give time, like just 1 minute. Do you want to say anything from the Waste Management Advisory Board? Chris Brown, do you want to say anything?
I think you guys did a great job presenting what they're doing. I think continuing to have a focus on recycling materials in a smart way and maximizing materials, but also doing it in a smart and cost-efficient manner. I always like to highlight that and sometimes challenge these guys to think about that. But I think they do a fabulous job. Thank you guys for listening and caring so much. I think being an environmentally friendly city in the long run for Charlotte is a fabulous branding. And I think that's, you know, people associate things with cities, and I think there's potential to be a great brand for the county and the city.
Well, we are the county. We are the county. Dr. Lakin, did you want to add anything?
Just, we were talking about landfills, and I'll just remind everybody that and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the single largest component of landfills is food waste. And if you do the math, at least the way I did it, it's about 500,000 pounds a day that we put in there in Mecklenburg. So that's where the food waste recycling comes in.
And so we're starting to try to change the culture. And I don't know if you've seen, but on the food composting, like one of the first mistakes that people make is they thought it was like, you know, they could take their expired cans and dump them in the container. And so there were like, it's supposed to be food scraps, not canned. So they had to like sit together and brainstorm, like, how do we change our messaging so that people aren't bringing expired food that, you know, you can dump the can out into but you can't throw the can in. And so how do we get people to start doing food scraps without contamination? And I think this is a great start. And so if there's nothing else,
To adjourn.
I hear a motion to
Second.
adjourn. I hear a second. Moved by Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned.